so excited because I'm not a morning person, but I think that now I will be. And so shout out to all of you that wake up early and come to these monthly. So thank you for being here, and thank you for hosting. I'm going to start with the little video. It's about a minute, just so you get an idea of my artwork.
Born in Mexico, I am a migrant. It's been a struggle navigating this country with separated parents, and I grew up in the border of El Paso, Juarez. I love being a border town, raised. My name is Calderon. I am a visual artist and educator here in Phoenix. I work primarily with printmaking and performance art. My artwork is a response to my personal migration, heritage, crossing borders and barriers spiritually, and with ideas of human connection. I'm developing a small installation that explores the materials, fabric, thread, print, and performance through free and intuitive thinking from the consciousness of being present. It relates to the Teotihuacan because my work is constantly investigating my heritage and my roots. And I travel to Mexico every year to explore and continue this personal exploration.
All the exploring and explorations. Can anyone guess what's wrong with this picture? No, number 2. I'm skipping that. Okay. So, roots. Can we see them? Sometimes. Okay. So I would like for you to take a look at this image. That's my plant. And now think about those roots. What words would you use to describe that inside the water? And now some roots are in pots or underground like trees, but these roots, what could you say about that? Let's try with an adjective and tell the person next to you. You have 1 minute. So, would anyone like to tell me what you observed from the bottom? Yes?
Exposed.
Exposed. That's a good one. Anyone else?
Chaotic.
Chaotic. Yes, I like these.
Wet.
Wet. Ooh, maybe stinky. Okay. Anyone else?
Seems like the lower they go, the more blurry they are.
The lower, the less visible, the more blurry. That can be deep. Confined.
Alive.
Interconnect.
They interconnect. They're alive. They're organic.
Murky. Murky. Murky waters.
No conozco esa palabra. You got me there. But yes, thank you.
Someone say exposed already?
Yes, exposed. Okay. Awesome. Non-traditional spaces. So these are super. You guys are thinkers. Alive. Okay, so these are my metaphors for roots. I think there are 2 types. Some of my reflections on roots are that one type, they run deep and we can't change them, such as like our ancestry, our heritage, our genetics, our cultural inheritances, generational traumas, things like that. And another thing is there's another type of roots that we can change, which is like formed by our experiences, like our cultural biases or learned behaviors, the habits that we form, including thoughts and action. So those can become our roots. So I'm not an expert in roots, but I will talk a little bit about my roots. Because I believe that if we pay attention, or as I've experienced, then we can grow new roots, strengthen the ones that we have, and uproot some of the roots. Aww. No, I'm saying because I had misspelled outcast. And I shared this with a friend this morning and she fixed it. So, okay. That's it. Thank you for coming. No. So once upon a time, I'm going to tell you a little story. It's not always happy. So once upon a time, I was a very happy kid until about the age of 5 when I was uprooted and taken to El Paso, Texas. And then at the age of 10 again when my parents divorced. I wasn't born in this country, obviously, so I had to figure out the ways and the language, and I wasn't happy about it, especially because the people I trusted the most, they didn't have a survival guide. And on the positive side, just a little positive, my green card resident alien, which I thought was funny as a kid, but I always knew I didn't belong. And although I did become a citizen at 12, I still felt like an alien, even more like a weirdo, and now feeling more alone with very limited support from my parents. So the fact that they were separated was not the difficult part. It was the fact that they couldn't provide support. So I lacked a lot of skills growing up, even most basic social skills. I did grow up feeling like an outcast, not worthy of belonging or fitting in. And I had no self-confidence. And I did not want to be noticed, ever. The only place I felt was safe was during the creation of making art. So making art was my outlet, and it was my therapy. And then I found this quote this morning. It's not finding yourself that's hard, it's facing yourself that is. Thanks. Next. So I want to talk about uprooting. Again, we have choices. Sometimes we have a choice, sometimes we don't. I uprooted myself and I moved to Phoenix at the age of 22. And I began this journey of realization that I was capable of creating my garden. I graduated from ASU. I found my dream job as an art coordinator and instructor. 4 years later, it closed. So that was very abrupt. It was called Las Artes de Maricopa. And then I uprooted and I moved to Dallas. I wanted to kind of connect with my only sibling, which was my sister. We hadn't lived together for 13 years, and I thought, you know what? I have one family member. I mean, I have parents, but I have a sister. So I thought, I want to get to know her as an adult. I'll see if I can teach out there, go to grad school. So I moved to Dallas. Grad school, I got in, full tuition waiver. I was like, wow, I can't believe this. This is such a big deal for me. But it didn't work out. I'll tell you later about that. I wasn't getting used to living in Dallas after 3 years, so I uprooted again and I chose to move back to Phoenix to grow in the arts and I got a job. My first job back was as art education and engagement manager at Chico Art and Culture. At this point, I'm on a mission to improve the quality of my life. Here's another quote I found this morning. When a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. On my journey to investigate my roots, I just wanted a better understanding of myself, and I went to visit Mexico City for the first time. I went 3 times. I went to all the museums, and I just wanted to see everything I could, so that I felt my art didn't have enough substance. And, oh, hold on. So when I was in Dallas those 3 years, I ended up going to grad school for 2 years and one summer mini-semester or summer school in Italy to study art, printmaking, and bookmaking. And right before going to Italy, which was also a dream, I never thought I'd study abroad. I never thought I'd graduate high school. But I got a scholarship too. I flew from Mexico City to Rome, and I took all of my investigations, my drawings, my sketches, and I decided to make art a little bit more based on my ancestry. So I made this in Italy on the left, and it's a carving, and I was really inspired by Teotihuacan, the pyramids. Next. It's specifically this place, which is in Teotihuacan. It's called the Palace of, or Palacio de Quetzalpapalotl. Okay, and I was really drawn to this architectural masterpiece, and I was really drawn to the relief on the pillars. And I wanted to kind of recreate that, and I really loved the door frames and that idea of trespassing, and it's a border, but there's no door. But I wasn't sure still where I was going with that. So for my candidacy in grad school, I created a door frame, go back, and I printed a lot of prints to make the door frames with those designs. Okay? The reason I don't have those designs is because these carvings I made first semester. And I followed the advice of my professor advocate. I'm going to just call him that. My professor advocate suggested that I use these because the other ones didn't make sense. And so I didn't trust what I was developing. So I listened. And when, okay, I need to rewind a little bit. Before going to Italy, I had my review, and I had created prints. I carved 5 large 2x4 wood blocks, and they weren't really making sense. I needed more substance, which is why I went to Mexico City. Okay, my review, I failed. I thought it was no big deal. You get a second chance. Okay, so now in Italy, I made over 80-something prints. I thought I did a lot of work. I received enough critique and guidance and help from the professors in Italy, and it was great. I was really confident. So now I'm back in Dallas presenting for the second time. Let me see. I built a door frame. Okay, well, I spent countless nights pulling all-nighters on campus. Professor Advocate said I wasn't really meeting his expectations with quantity, and that's when it hit me that there's probably no way I can meet his expectation if this was my capacity, this was my limit. So to prepare for my review, he advised I changed, and I did. And so when my grad committee reviewed my work, 1, my model didn't match my work, and 2, I couldn't defend how my roots made sense in my concept. So, can anyone guess? No? Okay. I failed twice. I failed twice because of quote-unquote unclear concepts. So I couldn't believe it. It haunted me for years because I had never failed anything in art class. My classes were great, just my review. I couldn't believe I failed. So that was it. They're like, you have a week to move out. I thought I was like, what happened to working? Where's my advocate? No? Okay, so moving out time. It haunted me for about a year or two, and I got depressed. I couldn't believe it. I went back to teaching, and I was teaching something else other than art at this point, I felt like a world-class failure. And now some of you are probably thinking, oh shit. And some of you may be thinking, what does this have to do with roots? Okay, next. So this has to do with my metaphor of roots, that we have choices and we have habits. I took action. I didn't want to let myself sink for too long. So I started to look for things that made me get out of the hole. So I started to heal, improve, and I got even better than I was before. I coached myself so hard with all the right things. Maybe not all the right things. I don't know where that came from. I coached myself in voice. I was like, you got this, you can overcome, I wanted the mentor and coach that I always wanted. And since there was no one, I had to, coach myself there. So I did learn to let go and to stop dwelling on all the disadvantages that I had been focusing on for decades. Okay, so we can grow new roots and uproot. Next. But what about when self-doubt kicks in? I struggled with that plenty. How can we tend to our roots? How will I nurture them? Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Now, if you could uproot something, what would you uproot? Think about it. Next. I went on a residency coming back here to Guadalajara. And I realized there that I am from here and I'm from there. So most of my life, feeling I don't belong, displaced, this is not my country, and if I win an award, I feel guilty because it could have been someone else's. No confidence, again, I said that already. But I was reflecting that, I am who I am, and I'm not going to live thinking, ni de aquí ni de allá. I'm going to think, I am from here and I am from there, and this is it. So I was tired of feeling that way, and so I started to allow myself to, I was going to say shit again, but to allow my art to just be pooped out of me in the way it was. Without apologizing for it or without too much explanation, just for the sake of my own sanity. And the director at that program, it was at the residency is a partnership with the ASU Art Museum, Cala Alliance, and BAUS Guadalajara. The director of BAUS told me, hey, you're not in grad school. Do whatever you want. Get over it. No, she didn't say that. But so then this is the first time I allow myself to do something that's just really bizarre. That's not in some way connected to a commission or a project that has parameters like a school assignment. So I went for it without thinking too much about it. And this is what I kind of, wait, you're not ready for this. I thought back about a performance I did in college in 2007 here at ASU. And it was the wackiest, wildest project. I did a performance and I was always scared of the spotlight, and that performance was a mandatory class, so I didn't have a choice but to make a performance art piece. And at that point my anxiety was really high and I didn't want to be noticed, so I found a solution. I think I'm a professional solution for my own problems person. And I hid. Go for it. Could you tell it's me? No. So I hid behind pantyhose, I covered myself from head to toe in all the shades. I cut them up, and there I was, ready for my performance, hiding. And so this piece was developed, titled Being. The pantyhose were my solution, and I ended up titling it Becoming because I was becoming something. So this is a representation of my shell, my interior. No, not my shell. It's not a representation of my shell. It's a representation of my interior, where I felt like it needed more attention. I wanted to grow, I wanted to transform, and I wanted to be in the present moment and just exist. So I found myself doing a really meditative, durational piece, and it was healing. And I didn't have to respond to anyone around me, and that was it. I ended up submitting it to the Tempe Biennial paper, and I got in. So I asked, how did I get in? This has nothing to do with paper. And what's her name? At Tempe Center for the Arts, Michelle said, sure, you are the paper and the machine. I'm like, of course, I am. So this was back then. Of course, I would understand that now. I'd be like, I'm the paper. So 2007. So now fast forward a lot of years later. This was last year, 2019, at the ArtLink's 19th annual juried exhibition in this space. This year I didn't apply, but last year I submitted this piece, which was born from my project in Guadalajara. What can I say about that? I am carving, I'm inking, and I'm sewing. And I am creating pieces, such as this one. Not this one. Well, yes, this one too. But this is an abstract sculptural piece, and all my pieces right now for this series have book-related titles, like pages, chapters, because it's like my form of documentation. To document my journey, my growth, my investigation about my ancestral roots and breaking norms. So that's it. Oh. So the question I already asked you, it's what will you uproot? What can you uproot? And how will you nurture the roots that you have today? Next. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, don't go too far. Okay. Good job.
Thanks. Oh, I appreciate it.
Okay, so there's time for Q&A.
Oh.
So if you guys have questions, we're going to put you on the spot.
Okay, I'm still here. Yes.
Is there a connection during your performances, what you're wearing, or what's the connection to what you're wearing to your art?
I'm still covered in the material that I'm using for my art. So yes, all the cloth and thread. I'm wearing a paper full of pins so that I don't have to grab them from somewhere. They're already on me. I also wear undergarments from my grandma. I forgot to mention this. My grandma and my dad have a lot to do with my roots and my artwork. I even have some slips that my grandma gave me because when she wakes up in the morning, she just showers, puts on her all the undergarments, pantyhose, slips, everything, puts on her clothing, and she's set every day. But so for my performances in this series, I do that. I wear undergarments and pantyhose. One time I wore only pantyhose and a top. And the reason for that was, you know what? I've been having a dream that I constantly for years that I get up and I go throughout my day but I'm only wearing a top and I have no bottom. And so when I notice, I'm really embarrassed. So, so I did that once. Okay. Any other questions? Huh?
Did your nightmare stop?
Yeah, it did. You gotta face your fears. Yeah. It did. Thanks. It's a good question.
Anyone else?
Is your art on display anywhere currently?
It is going up in 2 places this week. So starting February 7th and 8th. The 7th is the opening at 800 North Central, and the 7th is the opening at Palabras Bilingual Bookstore. So you're invited.
We'll share it to the Creative Mornings Instagram page as well. If you're interested in more information, we'll share it to that page.
On Thursday, I will be doing a performance, and not on Friday, but Thursday. If you can't make it, there's a closing reception on the 21st, and I'll do a performance there too. Any other questions? Okay.
How would you suggest we look back on our roots to help us in our current art?
Make an appointment with yourself, have a seat, and just reflect on what are your roots. I know some people don't know what their roots are even. I've asked around in preparation for this talk, and that's okay. But your roots are your experiences, what you can't change and what you can, it's what makes you. And then you can start identifying what are some of the things that I can focus on to move forward to where you want to go next in your life. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Go ahead.
Does it matter like what kind of roots are we talking about? Like familial roots or like heritage roots or anything like that, or can it be something else entirely?
It doesn't have to be ancestral heritage. It can be anything, any trauma, any experience, any, moving from one city to another. That became some kind of a root. I guess you could change it and look at it like scars. But these are organic, so there are things you can do from things that you can't undo. Okay.
Anyone else?
Why did you choose Phoenix?
I came to visit a friend in 2004, and I just felt right. Of course, I didn't come in the summer. It was, I was like, it was New Year's Eve, and I thought, I love it here. I love it. And I had nothing to lose in El Paso. I felt alone. I was like, if I can make it here, I can make it anywhere. So I went out on this journey to see what I'm all about and how I can discover something other than myself. Yes?
It was a bad question.
Okay. I appreciate it. No, thank you. Yes?
Do you feel like you have roots here now?
I feel like I do because I've spent 12 years here, and I love Phoenix. I have a lot of connections and friends and roots, and the people I really appreciate. I lived in Mexico, in Dallas, a little bit in Italy, 2 months, but the people in Phoenix are really approachable and helpful, which is great. So thank you for existing. Thank you. Thank you so much.